Welcome to a weekend in my microbakery. So today I am going to show you guys how I make 6 sourdough loaves. I do one classic, one everything bagel and cheddar, 2 jalapeno cheddars, and lastly 2 double chocolate loaves. If you've been following my channel, you will know that I recently started this microbakery and this is my second official weekend. And I think I learned a lot from my first weekend, and this week things came out better than the last. So here I am just mixing my sourdough starter, my water, my flour, and my salt. I did use about 5 different bowls to mix my dough. I did do the jalapeno and cheddar as a double batch in one of the bowls. I still don't have like those cute little bins to make lots and lots of dough because I am not trying to expand just yet because I'm just starting. So I'm kind of scared to not be able to tell when the bulk fermentation is over when I do put this dough in a rectangular container, if that makes sense. So as of right now, I am just using whatever I have, which are these bowls, and I am using just rubber spatulas, my little scale that I've used to make my own bread for my family, and I haven't really bought anything other than ingredients for my microbakery. It's not really like I'm urgently needing anything. So if you are thinking of starting your own, just start with whatever you have. You don't need the fancy tools and equipment. I know that I will end up buying more equipment for my microbakery eventually. I am using the Kirkland all-purpose flour. I like this one because it is unbleached and it is very high in protein, very close to a bread flour. It is pretty cheap at Costco and it is great quality and it is organic. They do sell the King Arthur bread flour at my Costco now, but it is not organic, and I kind of want to be able to tell my customers that I am using an organic product. I feel like more people will be willing to purchase if they know that they are getting something of a very good quality. I know King Arthur is great quality as well, but I don't know, something about the organic, brings people in. So here I am just labeling the bowls. This is what I learned last week, to write down the types of loaves that I am putting into each bowl. That way I don't get mixed up and I know which bowl is for what. This is how my sourdough starter ended up. I used every bit of starter in that jar. I like to weigh my starter, that way I have the exact amount and I don't have too much left over or too little. So this is the last bowl of dough that I am mixing. This is the double chocolate loaf. I'm just adding the flour and the salt, and then I went ahead and mixed everything in every single bowl. So what I did different this week is I put all of the ingredients into the bowls and then I mixed everything at the end. So last week I would put the ingredients into the bowl and then I would mix everything together like so, and then I would move on to the next bowl and then the next one and the next one. By the time I was done, my hands were so they were hurting so bad, and then I had to cut my cheese or shred my cheese and cut my jalapenos, so it was very bad. So this time I feel like mixing the dough all at once without stopping just kept my hands warm in a way, and they didn't hurt as much. And then here I am shredding my cheese. I went ahead and weigh out 100 grams of cheese per loaf, and my jalapenos and serrano peppers. I shredded 300 grams of cheese. One was for the everything bagel and cheddar, and then the other 200 grams were for the jalapeno and cheddar loaves. Those two I did put in one bowl, so I will add the 200 grams of cheese into that double batch of dough. And it was a lot of cheese, honestly. I feel like, I don't know if maybe I should put a little bit less, but I just like how there's so much cheese when you cut open your loaf. I feel like that will bring the customers back if they get a bite of cheese and jalapeno in every slice. And I don't know, I just feel like they'll feel like they're getting their money's worth. Now onto my jalapenos and my serranos. I don't take off the seeds from the center of the peppers because I feel like it gives the bread more spice. If I take it off, it just tastes like the pepper itself, not really enough spice. So I just like to leave it. And the feedback that I've gotten so far has been positive. So I don't think I'll be changing that anytime soon. If you guys take it off, let me know. Is it better, do you think? I am just trying to, I don't know, give the best product, and I'm willing to listen to any ideas or, anything. Just let me know. Now I'm on to my first set of stretch and folds. I am starting with the classic loaf because it has no inclusions, and then I went ahead and did the everything bagel and cheddar. This is after the first stretch and fold. Look at how beautiful and smooth it's starting to look. And then I went ahead and added some of the everything bagel seasoning and some cheese in between every stretch and fold. That way the everything bagel seasoning is also within the dough and not just on top. And I feel like it gives the loaf a very good flavor. Once the dough is done bulk fermenting, for this specific loaf, I actually forgot to put the everything bagel seasoning on top. But after I turned off the camera, I remembered and I went ahead and did that and then put it back into the refrigerator for it to cold proof. So at the end, you'll see that the top of the loaf has a lot of everything bagel seasoning, but when I put it into the banneton, it doesn't. So I did that behind the camera, and I'm glad I remembered because I feel like it wouldn't have looked as pretty and tasted as good because it wouldn't have that extra layer of the seasoning on the top. So now onto my jalapeno and cheddar loaves. You'll see that the dough is much greater here because there's more dough. There's double the dough here. And I am just adding the jalapeno and the cheese. I stretch the dough, fold it over, and then I add more jalapeno and cheese all the way around until I get all around the bowl. And then I flip my dough over and add a little bit more. That way, as the dough rests and I come back for the second set, I can just fold it over and it'll have inclusions everywhere. So when I don't finish adding the inclusions on the first set, I go ahead and finish putting them on the second set. Now onto my double chocolate. I am adding milk chocolate chips because these are the chocolate chips that I like to add. I do give the customer the option to pick, and I just go ahead and add a little bit in between each stretch and fold, making sure that everything has a little bit of the chocolate chips. And then this is the second loaf, and I do the exact same thing. This is what they all look like. You can see the little papers where I labeled everything. So the first bowl is the classic everything bagel, and then on the bottom right, jalapeno and the 2 double chocolate. So after I finish doing all of the stretch and folds, I go ahead and let the dough rest on the counter for a few hours until it is done bulk fermenting, and then I go ahead and shape them. I am shaping the classic loaf first, and I am just doing a quick little pre-shape and then putting it into the banneton. And then I do the everything bagel and cheddar. I let the 2 doughs rest side by side for a little bit, and then I put them both in their bannetons. And as I mentioned earlier, I forgot to put the bagel seasoning on the dough before putting it into the banneton. But normally what I would do is shape my dough, and then once it's ready to go into the banneton, I grab a little plate of water. I dip the dough right on top of it, and then I sprinkle some of the everything bagel seasoning all over the top, and then that top side of the loaf will go facing down into the banneton liner. And then when I turn it over to bake, it will have all of that bagel seasoning on the top, and it'll look super pretty. So now onto the jalapeno and cheddar. I just went ahead and split this dough, and I weighed it out to make sure that I didn't go over 1,000 grams, because last week this dough was over 1,000 grams per banneton, and it literally exploded in the banneton, and the shape wasn't as great when I baked it. So I was very annoyed by that. So I decided to weigh down how much of the dough I put into each banneton, and it worked out great. The little bit of dough that was left over from this loaf, I actually baked it and I made it into a mini tiny baby loaf, and I ate it just like that with butter, and it was perfect. So that was a little treat, and it worked out perfect. The dough looked great, and the loaves didn't get all wonky shaped, and I like the result way better than last week. Now finally on to my last two loaves, the double chocolate. So I went ahead and shaped my loaves and put them in round bannetons. Something that I've learned about making double chocolate loaves is that since they have sugar, they tend to expand a lot in the bannetons if you put them in the batard shape. I do charge more for this loaf because it does have the vanilla paste, brown sugar, salt, and the cocoa powder on top of the salt, the flour, and the water. So this loaf is actually bigger than the other loaves if I don't weigh it down. So I do charge more for them, plus adding the chocolate chips. So I really like this loaf. It's one of our favorites. I'm actually making one for us right now. There's the little baby dough that I, put aside for me. And now I am stitching up the dough just to create a little bit of tension before putting them into the refrigerator. And I think this dough took a bit longer this week because it is getting colder where I live, and I had to be paying attention to make sure that I didn't underproof the dough. And yeah, so the next morning I went ahead and baked these loaves. I do still bake in my Dutch ovens, so I bake two at a time. And I baked the original classic loaf and the everything bagel together side by side. And then I did bake the two jalapeno cheddar loaves. And then lastly, I baked the double chocolate loaves. And this is the end result. They were basically cooled at this point, but I just wanted to show you guys the overview of everything, and I'm very happy with the results. I weighed all these doughs actually, and the lightest one was the classic loaf, and that one seemed to be one of the bigger loaves, which was funny to me. But thank you so much for watching today's video. Let me know what you think about my loaves. Comment, like, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in my next one.